I have had an anal fistula for over 5 years now, and as a gay man who is primarily a bottom, this did become a source of insecurity for me. But despite that, I have chosen to live with my fistula, and I thought I would share my reasons why, and hopefully my experience can help other gay bottoms out there. Now, if you don't know what a fistula is, why are you here? Just kidding. But seriously, please watch this video made by an actual professional so you can learn all you need to know about fistulas before coming to watch this video. Now, because of the nuances of my condition, I have decided to live with my fistula, at least for the time being. And that might be different for you. This is not an endorsement to live with your fistula. For example, if you're actually experiencing pain or discomfort of any kind, you may need to actually go and see a professional and then make an informed decision then. But for me, personally, I have decided to live with my fistula, and here's why. So I'm going to go over the details of my condition now. If you don't want to hear it, then you can skip ahead. Number one, my fistula is mostly painless. I go about my day-to-day activities with little to no issues. I don't think about my fistula, and it does not affect my everyday activities, mostly. But there's a second part of my condition in which there is a bit of a cycle. I guess it's kind of like a period for the ladies, except definitely not as painful. For my condition, for my fistula, about once every month or two, my fistula would start to kind of swell up a little bit. Now, in the other video that I referenced, the doctor described this as being because the fistula hole has closed up, and because it has closed up, it kind of causes the bacteria to get clogged in there, and then an infection starts to build, and then it just looks like a giant pimple. And for me, that is exactly what it looks like. It looks like a giant pimple. It's filled with white pus, and yeah, it just kind of swells and becomes very itchy. Not painful, just itchy. Like if I were to clench my buttocks and squeeze, I could feel the fistula, and it's not very comfortable. And then normally this pimple would either burst on its own, or with some poking and prodding, it would just pop like a regular pimple would. Sometimes there is blood. Most of the times though, there isn't any blood, and it's just this yellowish white liquid. Sometimes it's brown. But yeah, the fluids will leak, and then I just leave it alone, and it just heals itself back up, and then my fistula looks flesh colored and looks normal. It kind of just looks like a small lump next to my rectum. Yeah, and then everything is normal. It doesn't hurt, nothing really happens. But then the cycle will begin within the next month or two. And that's basically the biggest issue I have with my fistula. It doesn't cause me any other problems, it doesn't cause me any other issues, and because of that, I have decided to just simply live with my condition. Because getting a surgery involves risks and factors and more expenses that I am just not sure would be worth it in the end, especially if the surgery doesn't end up succeeding and ends up opening another fistula, or the fistula reopens, and just seems like a lot of trouble, especially for something that isn't causing me a lot of harm right now. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean it is not without its issues, and there are some issues when it comes to living with a fistula, especially when you're a gay bottom. And if your situation is like mine, where you are a gay bottom and you're starting to develop a fistula, I just want to let you know that it is totally fine. You don't have to worry. And for me, it's been nearly 5 years, and for me, life hasn't really been impeded all that much, except in one aspect, and that is sex. Now, living with a fistula has changed the way that I primarily have sex with men, and is the primary reason why I decided to make this video. So if you're like me, I hope this helps you. So the number one way it affects my sex life is with the timing. So because of this cycle that I go through, it does limit the timeline in which I can have sex with men, because during the times when my fistula is acting a little cray-cray, it can smell pretty bad, which is embarrassing, of course, but I just want to reassure you that it is fine, it is normal, and you can live through it. The bad smell usually comes during the pimple burst period of the fistula, and during the healing process after, when the fistula starts to kind of close back up again. That is the period where it kind of smells the worst for me, and it is definitely a smell I do not want my partners to smell. So typically, the periods when I do have sex is during the time where my fistula is basically healed up and kind of looks like a flesh-colored lump. It's kind of camouflaged with the rectum. Those are the times that I consider to be safe to have sex. But even then, there are honestly times when I feel like there is a smell still, and the best that I can do is just clean it as best as I can. So far though, none of the tops that I've been with have mentioned anything about a bad smell, so it could all just be in my head, or maybe they're all just trying to be nice. Yeah, but yeah, to mitigate the potential of a bad smelling experience, I always try to time my activities after the period of healing. And the second most important thing that has changed because of this condition is the way that I douche. So before my condition, my douching technique was acrobatic. So I would take my douche, and then I would, you know, put the water in and then squirt it up my butt and then just wait for 60 seconds or so. And then during those 60 seconds, what I used to do was that I would always sit in different sexual positions. So the first time I would squirt the water in, I would sit like, you know, on my back on the bathroom floor, legs splayed out, and, you know, be in like missionary position. I would just hold it for like 60 seconds. Then I would stand back up, then I'd do a little shake, I would start gyrating, twerking against the wall and shaking up and down, that kind of thing, and then flush it and let it all out. Put the water back in the douche, squirt it up my butt again, and then do the whole thing over again, except in a different position. So like in like a doggy position, and then, you know, I'll continuously do that until the water comes out clean. However, now with a fistula, my douching technique is different. And the reason being, I've noticed that every time I did my previous technique, so the acrobatic technique where I would like, you know, sit in different positions, every time I would douche in that way, I would notice that my cycle comes back a lot faster. So like within the next few days to like a week after having sex, like my pimple would start to build again, and then, you know, it would be really pussy, and then like I would have to like try to get it to burst again and like flush everything out, and it gets like kind of uncomfortable. And I think the reason why is because when you're doing the acrobatic technique that I did, it would cause the water to like get sucked into the crevice of the fistula and then bring gunk and other things and bacteria. And then, you know, it just starts to form that pimple again, and then it just, you know, bursts. And overall, I don't think that's a very good way to do things. So instead of doing that, what I found that works better is simply just douching while sitting upright, and a very simple douching method. So I copied this douching technique made by this YouTuber. This is the video that I watched, and he simply just uses his douche and he just stands upright and then just like pushes the water in, and he fills it up to a certain point, and then he just flushes. No need to gyrate, no need to do any extra movements, no need to jump up and down like I used to do. And so far it's worked pretty well for me, which is surprising. Prior to this, I thought that I had to, you know, really try to get the water sloshing up in there so that it can like be sure to clean up all areas of the colon. But this method has worked out pretty well for me. It hasn't caused extra irritation to my fistula. Actually, the last time that I had the fistula cycle was almost a month and a half now, so I think things are doing pretty well. I think this method works if you have a fistula. But then again, just to mention, I typically don't go for men who have like skyscraper penises. So if you do have a partner who is well endowed, I don't know if douching this way would work for you, because most of the men that I go for usually have like average to smaller sized penises, which I like, by the way. I think oversized penises are overrated in my opinion. But yeah, this is a method that does work for me, and hopefully it does work for you. But yeah, aside from those two things, besides my cycle and douching technique, my life has really primarily been unchanged. Life as a gay bottom with a fistula is pretty normal, which is why I decided that I can live with this fistula. If there were further complications, I'm not sure I would feel the same way, and I would probably definitely consider surgery as being a viable option if it was causing me pain or anything like that. For those of you who are considering surgery, I have heard from other bottoms on the internet that fistula surgery actually causes your rectum to become tighter, which can cause anal sex to be even more painful or at some times impossible. But this is what I've heard from the grapevine, so, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But I just wanted to let you know that I have heard of this. So if you are considering surgery, it might be best to talk to your doctor about your sexual activities and then let them know that anal sex is something that you do, and if there's any way that, you know, they can refer you to a specialist who can get rid of your fistula while at the same time retaining the natural stretchiness of your rectum or something like that. You know, just find a professional that has your best interests in mind. I just thought I'd put it out there for anyone who is considering surgery as a gay bottom. Obviously, I can't make the decision for you as to whether or not you want to have surgery, but I just want to let you know that living as a gay bottom with a fistula is possible, and life is quite normal for me. Especially if this is a new condition for you. I know how worrying this could be. When I first got this condition, I was living in Vancouver, Canada, and I was jumping around different doctors. They kept referring me to different people. It was just a lot of unnecessary drama, in my opinion. So yeah, I hope you know now that this is something that's totally fine, totally normal, and you can live with a fistula if the conditions are similar, if not the same as mine. I hope that this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I want this video and comment section to be kind of like a safe space for people, for gay bottoms who have fistulas, so we can all just like, you know, get together and talk about our fistulas and like just share advice and discuss whether or not we should have surgery, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. Just discuss all manners of things involving our fistulas and, you know, just being chill about it. Because, you know, the gay world is already kind of judgy and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I just want this to be a safe space. Anyways, yeah, that's everything I have to say. Stay safe out there, you guys, and catch you later.